Hi everyone, how is everybody doing? Welcome to the Money Date. I'm talking today to you about how to prepare for anticipating a baby to arrive and what are some things you can do to be ready. I know that sometimes it seems silly that it's almost impossible to prepare, but I still want to have that discussion with you. My name is Anna Surgunina and I welcome you to the Money Date. Hi Deb, good to have you here. Thanks for tuning in. Now, you guys know, those of you who are watching, I appreciate you coming in. It's exciting. I've been doing this for 52 dates. It's been a year since I launched the show, and this is my baby because I didn't know where this was going to take me. I didn't know what I was going to do with the show, but it looks like it keeps gaining popularity. You keep coming back, so I am here because of you, and the topics and discussions that I bring on, hi Lori, good to have you here, are because of the questions that I'm being asked of my clients and of you as well. So this is a typical question that I get from my younger families who I have lately have a lot of them on the books. And so Lori will be talking about a couple of things that I think you might be able to comment on as well. And so yes, my younger clients who are starting families or they're have kids on the way, already had kids, always wondering what are some of the things that they can do to prepare. And I want to share a couple of tips with you tonight. Now, before we get into the actual nitty-gritty meat details of what I've got in the back of my mind, I want to make sure that we talk about the three important things that the reason this whole Money Date show was actually put together. And it really came down to this, and it was really my own experience and struggle about making sure that I could stay on the top of my finances, because I am busy with working with clients, helping them with their own, and never have time to really have what I want for my personal life. Hi Amy, good to have you here. So the three things that I want you guys to be tracking on going forward, and we do this every week, so hopefully for those of you who've been watching, 52 reminders, and I'm gonna keep on going. So number one is your income. Understand where it's coming from, and it's gonna be, for those new parents it's gonna be an important thing to track on a weekly basis. Now I like weekly because it helps to break down the big kind of things that all of us tend to put on, off to do. So number one is the income. Number two is your expenses. And I know expenses is something that most of us don't like to think about. A lot of us, hi Jennifer, oh my goodness, there's a whole bunch of my girlfriend financial planners. I love it. Thank you guys for hopping on. It's awesome. So income, tracking income, expenses. Now I know, and you can chime in too as well, because you have plenty of clients with whom you have to work hard on getting their expenses to where they feel comfortable and they feel under control. So my advice and my recommendations is just that. And some clients like to have a very detailed explanation where every dollar goes. Others don't want to look into that. They really want to see the bigger picture. Whatever it is for you, you need to know what it is. And that's all I'm asking you to do. I use tools such as Mint.com. I have an app on my phone. Personal Capital is another app that I frequently recommend. Quicken, I have not personally used Quicken, but that's a helpful tool. And so it doesn't matter what you use. You can just do it by hand just as well, or you can pull your credit card statement and see what you've spent. I want you to know what it is. And then number three is the savings goal. We all need to have savings goals. Whatever it is that you're working towards, whether it's building your emergency reserves, saving for the next vacation, buying the couch that you always wanted. I'm actually due for a couch. So I was thinking about that. Anyway, you see, it's a goal that you're trying to accomplish. It's a target you're trying to reach, and having money or things that you're going to do to save that money for it helps you get there. That's it. Those are the reminders that I wanted you guys to hear, because we get so busy, we get so distracted, and it's the basics that hold your financial plan, right? That hold your financial picture together. I know there are a lot more pieces to it, but at least if we start with that, it's going to hold your foundation pretty strong. Now, as I dive deeper into talking about the actual topic of our Money Date today, before I do that, I love to share and I love to hear from you what has been awesome for you in the last week. Now, I've traveled quite a bit last week, so I'm actually really happy to be in my office. You can see my background and actually being home. So a lot of things take place when I'm on the road. So it's exciting, and that's why I like to actually travel, even though most of it is for work. But I get to see my family and my clients. So share out your money win. Type in the chat. Let me know you're here. I appreciate you watching. Hi, Victoria. Good to have you. So my money win, and money win is, I call it a money win because I want to focus, and I do this on a daily basis, but I want you to focus on one positive gratitude or moment that took place in your life over the last week that you can actually pause, reflect back and say, yeah, I actually am grateful. I am actually appreciative of what that could have been. I don't know what it is for you, but for me, so a couple of things. Actually, usually it's more, it's usually one, but today I want to share more than one. I started, and it's funny because I've never done anything like this before. I'm not really good with diets. I just don't handle hunger really well, and so I've got Yuri hooked on this too because he had no choice. Anyway, we're doing what's called the 12 days green smoothie detox, and so I've started that on Monday. So it's day 3. Just drinking smoothies 3 times a day and just having a little snack in between. So anyway, it is a money win for me because, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit later once I finish it in the next 2 weeks. So by next Saturday. But it's been actually an interesting realization how I could live without some of these basic things, like I don't have to drink coffee, right? I can function just fine without having coffee. I love it. I really want it, but I don't have to have it, okay? So it just based on these 3 days of not having it. The same thing goes for a lot of other things. I can be just fine without, skipping a meal, which I never thought was possible, right? Because again, I always have this thought that I can't deal with hunger. I get frustrated, get irritated. So, and then I got thinking yesterday, I'm like, oh my gosh, how much money could I actually save, right? Because I never took this for granted. I know what my spending is. I know what I'm allowed to spend. So buying a coffee or buying lunch is a normal kind of practice for me. So not having to do that for the last couple of days, it's kind of like refreshing. I'm like, wow, I didn't have to do that. And the other piece that's exciting too, when I got home these last few days and tonight as well, I don't have to cook dinner. The dinner is ready because you have to prepare your smoothies in the morning. So anyway, these are just some of the kind of exciting things that I think I'm learning in this experience that kind of relates to the finances, but more overall. Hi, Sveta, good to have you. But more overall of what's happening and how, what I'm appreciative for in this last week. So I would love for you guys to share and let me know what you've been excited about. Just drop a note in the chat. And another thing too, I would appreciate if you share this out. If you found this useful, share this out with your friends. Always love to have more audience. So those are my wins for the week. Now I want to get started with the topic as we getting into the show. So I'm talking about ways how, and I know this is may not sound as practical, but we need to start thinking ahead, right? And especially when major life transitions happen, as, for example, starting a family or having kids. So some of the things you can certainly, hi Diana, good to have you here. Certainly you can prepare ahead of time, okay? Now, hi Elizabeth, good to have you here. Thanks for tuning in. So, and I know that having a kid, I don't have my own kids, but I've seen what happens to other people. It's an exciting time of your life, and sometimes emotions and not having clear thoughts about what the financial piece will do to your overall plan isn't something that you want to be focusing on, and I get it. But if you were to do it right, if you were to if you were to think as far as preparing, here are some things that I have four different tips to share with you today, right? Because what ultimately you want to do, hi Nanette, good to have you here, is you want to be a better parent, you want to be a better person, and you want to do the right things. So number one is to plan and create a budget for the newborn expenses. Now, I hope, because we talk about this every show, right, having your own spending in control, this is beyond that. And what I'm talking about is things that are going to require for you as far as having a new baby. So, things that you're going to spend money on: diapers, formulas, clothing, furniture, your own clothing that you need to. So anything that comes to mind, you need to start budgeting, right? And I know there are going to be things like having a baby shower, or maybe you already had one, that you've gotten a lot of these items. But you need to think about, and maybe you can't think ahead of all of the items that are going to be necessary. Think about allocating, right, in your overall budget, additional money for those kinds of expenses. So I looked around and I see what my clients are actually spending, but I would say I'm talking about the first year once you have a baby, and it kind of will vary. So I would say that allocating maybe $1,000 or more a month to allow for all of these extra things, and also think about daycare, right? Because daycare is expensive wherever you are in the United States, whether it's West Coast, East Coast, or Midwest. But you got to think about that ahead of time. So, and because when the time comes, what you want to, and I know it takes time to adjust, I'm sure, right? You want to be able not only budget for those expense items, I also want you to look at your income. Because as you're going through the transition, right? So it's budgeting expenses, which is one, or at least anticipating those spendings. Think about your income. And especially for parents who are going to be staying at home, whether it's women or men, right, taking maternity leave or paternity leave, how much of your compensation is going to be keep on going? If you're a business owner, right, for example, what are you going to do when you can't work, right? Do you have right systems and right people in place? But ultimately, my friends, it all comes down to having money. So, and that kind of brings me to my point number 2, which is beefing up your emergency reserves, okay? I always talk about that as well, but making sure that you have at least 6 months worth of expenses saved up. And if you're planning to take time off for the new baby arriving, you need to make sure that whatever that time off is allotted and included in your overall formula, right, for calculating what your emergency reserves needs to be. Now, I always sort of give my clients a range, 3 to 6 months, right, to kind of give them a platform to operate on, because I know sometimes it's hard to get to the 6 months. But if we're talking about taking time off and planning for these unexpected expenses that you don't quite know how they're going to work and what's going to come out, I really want that to be a higher item. Now, always remember, emergency reserves is something that does not sit in your checking account. It is recommended to have a separate savings account so that it's not commingling with your everyday bill pay and so forth. So I like high yield online savings accounts, and I'm excited about that. But I was joking with a client today. We can actually get about 2% on those savings accounts, which is awesome. It's not a whole lot of money, but it's better than it used to be. So think about that. All right. My tip number 3. Hi Jane, good to have you here. My tip number 3 is make sure you have appropriate insurance coverage. And insurance is a broad topic. I can probably just do a whole money day talking about insurance for this particular need. But this is number 1 place where I see my clients have deficiencies. Okay, so let's start with making sure that you have the right health insurance plan. If you haven't had the baby yet, make sure that you know what cost you're going to be anticipating. It probably is going to be late if you're already pregnant to start changing the plan, unless if you're getting your plan through the employer, unless your employer is having an open enrollment season and you have an opportunity to change the plan. So that's number 1. what kind of medical expenses, out-of-pocket costs are we going to be anticipating? Number two, which is the big one for young families, and where's my friend Lori? I hope you're listening, but I'm sure you're going to agree with me on that. Life insurance and disability protection. Now, ladies, if you're pregnant, those two things is something that I wish and I hope that you've done before. If you haven't, good to have you, Lori. I know you're listening. I know you haven't. So if you have insurance coverage available to you for both life insurance and disability through work, make sure you do take advantage of that, because it's more difficult and almost actually it's impossible while you're pregnant to get qualified for those types of policies. So disability is fine, and I'm talking about short-term disability. This is in case, right? I'm always thinking about those bad cases. There's complications with the pregnancy and you need to take more time off. Not every employer pays for maternity leave, much less for paternity leave. So think about, again, all it comes down to how much money is this going to be costing you, right, at the end of the day? Because not only you're adjusting to the new life, but you're also adjusting to the new way of operating your finances. So, but let's say that our fathers, right, have the opportunity to both make sure that they have proper insurance coverage in place, and I'm talking about life insurance, and as well as disability coverage, right? So it does not apply for them having pregnancy complications, but it's something that if they're going to be the breadwinners for the time being, right, we need to make sure that in case they can't work, we have enough coverage there. So cannot stress enough how it's like number one thing is not enough insurance coverage. So Lori, if you have a tip or two on this topic, please chime in. But I am just, at the very least, make sure that you have, if you can get a hold of coverage that's available to you through your employer. If not, start looking outside. There are plenty of resources, and let me know what I can help you with. Yeah, personal insurance to carry through life. So that's something to think about as well. I agree. All right, and then my tip number 4, and this is 4 fingers. I get excited about this because I used to, so about maybe this is probably 10 years ago now. I think it's that long ago. So tip number 4 is to make sure that you start thinking ahead of how to plan for education-related costs. It could be college, it could be private school, it could be all the kind of extracurricular activities and things like that. So about 10 years ago or so, when I used to live in Maryland, I would call it a volunteer job, but I would volunteer for Maryland 529 college plan. And so my job was, it was more an educator kind of position. So I would go out to schools, and these were middle schools and elementary schools, and give presentations to parents about why starting to save for college at that point, which I always thought, hey, why don't you preach to parents who just had their babies to start thinking about saving for college? So I used to go to health fairs to just, talk about the Maryland 529 plan. But the idea is that it doesn't matter what kind of plan you have, whether you live in Maryland, California, or somewhere else. It's the idea is that the sooner you start thinking about those types of costs, because they're going to come up. And the worst part, and I know Nanette is also listening, but we as planners, and we have a lot of clients who come to us at the time where it's like their children are going to college next year, or much less, I have a client right now, 2 of their kids are going to college in the fall, and they're like clueless, right? How they're going to actually pay for that expense. So what I'm talking about is that think about starting just very small, right? Because you have a lot of time. When the child is not born yet, or just about to be born, or already here 1 or 2 months old, start saving $100 a month, $50 a month, or something like that. Because over time, and it's interesting, if you start with $100 a month when they're 0 age, 1 or 2 months old, and you continue doing this for 18 years, at the end of 18 years, let's say you're going to get 5 or 6% return, roughly, maybe 6% to be more aggressive with the investments. You're going to have about $47,000 accumulated in that account. Now, I want to remind you that that's only enough to cover about 1 year. Hi, Megan. Good to have you. It's only how's my William doing and Gracie? I hope they're well. I'm sure they're in bed. I miss them. So I want to see you guys soon. But I want to remind you that it's only going to cover 1 year of college cost, and it's not even $47,000 in today's dollars. And it's not only it's not enough to cover a private school. So you've got to think about. I know there's a lot of moving pieces here, but how do you got to take baby steps, right? And I know that it's definitely overwhelming and exciting when all of this takes place. But as soon as you have an opportunity, start small. Start taking small steps, because at the end of the day, it's the time. And I was telling a client earlier today, we're talking about investments, but one of the things, and I think it applies to everything we do, is this concept of time, right? And the sooner we start understanding that we do it, that time is on our side, and start taking actions, I think you're going to be way ahead of time. So those are the 4 tips I have for you guys today. I appreciate you watching. I do have a quote which kind of is kind of interesting, so I'm going to share it. What good mothers and fathers instinctively feel like doing for their babies is usually the best after all. So obviously, right, there are instincts and things that come to us naturally we don't even have to think about. But I think finances and taking the right step isn't something that we instinctively are aware and know what to do. So reach out for help. Ask for help. Ask questions. And don't be afraid or feel like you're going to sound silly or your question is stupid. There's no such thing. So at the end of the day, I don't want you to miss that time. I appreciate you guys watching. Thanks so much. I'll see you next week. Bye.